Hello, guys. This is Gene. You might hear some construction going on in the background. Little sounds you hear when the machines are going backward and forward. There's somebody a couple of houses from us. I think they're putting a big pool in. They have one of the bigger houses. I have a big house too, but these are like the $800,000 houses across the street from mine. We didn't feel like spending that much. We only paid like $350 for ours, but how the market has gone here, you can get for those houses, you get near like 750. They're about 1,000 feet bigger than ours. A little bit bigger yards. I mean, I have almost an acre here, and I still mow it with the push mower. I do have a riding mower, but it just gives me problems. So I just use it for exercise. Helps me with my upper body and as well as going up down the hill. I have a little small hill here. Maybe one day I'll walk around my yard and let you look at what I have if you want that. But I just want, this is going to be episode 2, is Deon Sanders, otherwise known as Coach Prime. Is he killing college football? I got over 200 views. I will say most of what it was is just people responding to the actual title of my video. Not many people watched it, because if you actually watched it, I mean, I told you on my video after this that I was kind of long-winded in it. I just was talking about stuff. I said this was going to be overreaching thing, talking about how society and all that stuff kind of like feeds into what we have right now. And most people just wanted to respond and say that, this is 2023 and I need to wake up, because I guess because I'm an old white man who doesn't understand anything. I didn't really talk about Deon probably about 20 minutes in, really. And even then it was never anything personal. And I made pretty clear that Deon is just using the system that he has right now. But the fact is he is a figurehead of it now. So where will we go from this? His experiment at Colorado, how it goes, how it creates the rest of college football and amateur athletics is a relevant topic to discuss. And I think you can ask the question, is this good for college football? So I'll read some of their comments. There's a couple of them that are very disgusting, so I banned them. I'm not going to say it became racial, but I think that was the tone that they were trying to get. Basically, this man saying something about a black man and all that I didn't want him to have the power because he's a black man. Me and Deon are almost the same age, all right? We came from pretty much the same background. I didn't grow up in wealth and poverty. I was on the same streets as mostly Hispanic people in my neighborhood. We did have some black people, but I was mostly in like a Cuban, Hispanic area, small place to live into. But we loved it there, and I don't remember any really crime going on. We had no problems, and I'll talk about that when I talk about some of the things that happened after the game, and how it relates, and how as a country we failed, and it's pretty much led us to where we are right now. But let me just read some of the comments. Let me open my phone here. Oh, here we go. All right. The one I got the most was, doesn't matter how it used to be. Quit living in the past. This is a new time, live in the now. I mean, that could be a positive comment. But I think the people, especially, I'm assuming this person's younger than me, because you never can see who they are. But these are people that don't understand that we have to look to the past to make sure that we don't make errors for the future. We have to understand how things were done in the past and why sports is so important to what we do for young men. And when you make team sports at the highest level in college to be about the individual instead of the team, it does actually impact the future and how we look at men. And I think it's a bad way to look at them. Just because right now, Deon is the shiny new thing. We shouldn't just put all our bags or all our whatever the term, everything into one basket for him. He is not God. He's an iconic football player, but he's not God. And my issue with Prime is that he puts God way too much in this, and he doesn't follow the tenets of God. Anyway, that's just one. This guy responds to me, is Sanders killing college football? Absolutely not. If anything killed college football, it was paying the players to be played, to be played. This is a long one here, real long. So I'll go through as much as I can. I mean, it's a lot because of my issue. It's hard for me to say it, but overall, he's saying that we should never give them player pay. I respond to him saying that we did already. For the last 20 years, 30 years, we've been giving them stipends. At the Power Five universities, these guys are getting $2,000 minimum per month. They don't have to do anything for it. They also get a closing allowance. They also get per diem, so they can anything. They can have any food that they want at any of the places that are on the campus. And I would almost venture to guess off campus that they get huge amount of breaks too. I'm going to talk about this in my commentary as well. These things changed, and why it all changed because of the Supreme Court ruling about name, image, and likeness, and how the transfer portal kind of like got all this stuff as well, and how it actually impacts our culture, and that we value our own attention over the team, over our culture, hierarchy, things like that. Yeah, these programs were milking athletes our entire lives. Now the athletes are beginning to milk the programs. Ebbs and flow, my guy. And most people agreed with him, and he thinks that I'm being selfish about it. I'm not being selfish at all. I think getting a scholarship to university is the pay that you should get. And if you want to pay for the food, that's fine as well. If you want to pay for the books, fine as well. If you want to give them a little bit because they have no money at all, I'm okay with that too. And that's what we do, and we have been done forever. And the game was better. And I'm just saying, the game was better in the 90s than it is now. You can say that the theater that it was with Colorado State against Colorado, when Colorado was a 23-point favorite, and they almost lost that game, that the theater was better. Okay, fair enough. Everybody said that, all the people that are on Deon's bandwagon, they all say that was one of the greatest games of all time. It was sloppy, a lot of fouls, a lot of mistakes. That's what I said in my first video, is that the level that's being played is not played at the same level it was before. But anyway, and again, another one is like, this is a black guy. It's 2023, dude. Okay, and another one, unconscious bias. Unconscious bias. Okay. That sounds like something like, oh my God, I'm a white person and I have no other thing to do because I'm using my privilege because I have this unconscious bias against white. Deon Sanders? Watched him play in the stadium when he was at college, when he was at Florida State, when he was at campus. Never looked at him as a black person. We're going to have to have this conversation. We're going to have this conversation. My generation and his generation pretty much settled the racist shit. We did. And obviously, Martin Luther King had a huge impact on all of us that grew up during that time. And we pretty much solved it. There was no murmuring from the black community that it was the white man's fault that they were not doing well. Before the government came in and replaced the fathers in the homes in the black and the white community, but clearly more impactful in the black community, there was no real difference economically between the races. We still might have lived in a tribal area, meaning that white people were together and black people were together, and maybe there's still some bias on both sides, but we pretty much solved it. We moved on with their life. Guys became very, very famous, not just in athletic realm, but also with companies and stuff that were black. And then we allowed these other people to get in and fester into our minds about this real issue that we have in this country about racism. It's something that doesn't exist in the majority. It just does not. Look, I can only talk about myself, but I am a worldly person. I've been everywhere. Other than parts of the Orient. I've been everywhere. The United States is the most least racist country in the world. And the only reason we are where we are right now is because there's a certain amount of people in the media that pushes this shit, and the rest hustlers on both sides are pushing this shit. You know, Deon can say what he wants to say, but I'm just shocked that this white guy could run so fast at the combine, and nobody will say that's racist. And then when the Jimmy the Greek says the reason why the blacks are more athletically superior is because during slavery we did this. I guess that's it. It shouldn't be said. This in the '70s, but we looked at that and said that's kind of racist. We shouldn't say stuff like that. We had these conversations. We had several times on morning TV. We had this conversation between all of these people at the table talking about this, talking about how important the fathers was in the home. Even Obama said about this. He said this when he was a state senator in Illinois, that we have to do something about the lack of fathers in the homes in the black community. What's this guy from CNN, the black gay guy who's no longer there anymore? He said the same thing. But something got in their mind about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that you wanted to raise up single mothers in the black community, that you had no issue that the government coming in and paying for that shit, and you just took, and then the system, and you call this the system, that these guys are not doing what they need to do. They have no goals in life. They turn to crime. They go into the jails, and they come out and go back in, go in and go out. It doesn't make black people are more prone to crime than white people are. There is a lot of things that deals with economic factors, but most of it is if a man has no goals, has nothing to inspire to, they will find themselves on the wrong side of the law. It doesn't matter what color you look like. This country, it was never like that. There was a time before all of us were born, okay? There might be people that are 90 years old that could have saw there was a part of the United States, if you walk through there and you're a black guy, bad things could happen to you. There are places right now I can go right now as a white guy and things would not be good for me. Based on the fact that these people hear this stuff, and I don't give a shit. I said these people. It doesn't mean whether you're black or Asian or anything like that. People that doesn't look like me, and I'm walking in an area, they could be black, they could be Asian, whatever, and they've been told this bullshit about how white people are responsible for everything that ever happened. And now, again, just from my own, I'm not going to sit there and say anything. My family didn't come here till after the Civil War happened. We had no slaves, but it doesn't matter, because if we're going to continue to look at each other based on how we look on the outside, instead of doing what Martin Luther King actually said, is just judge somebody on the character that they display. Especially, that's what men want, right? We want other men to understand that we have integrity. That if I give you my word, I'm going to be there and I'm going to defend that word. That's how it always has been with men. And when you don't have fathers in the homes, whether it's in the black or the white community, there's no leadership in the family. And when you have no any leadership in the communities, this is the shit that we have. And we allow, for lack of a better word, we allow the females to take over, and they are very, very malleable when it comes to these type of leftist, Marxist type of ideas. Feminism, Marxism, all this other abortion, no fault divorce, all this stuff is related to all of this. So now when I sit there and, okay, I'm an older dude, let's say, and it's 2023, and I see all these guys at the draft, and let's say the top 10, 9 of them happen to be black, and 8 of them are just showing up at the draft with their mom in tow, like the mom is his wife, and they'll say stuff, this is my king, and this is my, what the fuck is that? Is that cultural? Is that what it really is? Are you going to tell me in your community that's how it's supposed to be? And every sane, logical black man knows this is the fact, that the government, and you can have the problem with the government, that they've caused almost all of this, and it started back in 65 and 64, and that we separated black people from white people, saying that you need a help, and and all the metrics have said that after the last 60 years that we failed at this. we have. I mean, I just watched the other day. It was Stand By Me or something like that. It was that guy, the Hispanic or Latin, I don't even know, Venezuelan. I don't know. It's a guy in L.A. that was teaching all these guys that were they were Hispanic, and no one thought they could pass the AP calculus test, and he did this. They made a movie about him, and when he was there, he had almost all his kids pass the AP calculus test. I can tell you, I didn't pass it. So, but you had somebody there that was motivated to help out the people in his community. They did well, and I'm sure all those people that passed that test have probably had decent lives. I mean, even though they probably in an area that there was a lot more crime and all that stuff, based on the drugs and all that stuff that was going on, they probably had pretty good lives. I don't know. I didn't research it. Now, in liberal areas, we can't even test people anymore because it's insensitive. It's racial now, because we are saying to Hispanics and Black people that you're not smart enough to pass these tests, the tests that these girls and guys passed 40 years ago. And then when I say, yeah, it's 2023. Okay, it's 2023 right now, and that's happening in our schools right now. Should I just accept that? Would you accept that? Would you want your kid not to have standards? Let's say your kid is really smart, he's going to college, university, and he gets the same scholarship, or he gets his degree, and this other person over here gets the same degree, and this guy didn't have to do anything, didn't have to pass any tests, but because we felt so bad about him, we did it because of the color of their skin or their economic background. And at the same time, we basically punish Asian guys because they do well on these tests. And but again, it's okay. It's 2023. All right. So when I tell you about this and these videos, when I say that everything that happens in sports, especially because it's one of the very few things that helps make boys to be men, to give them leadership capabilities, and then when you allow the young people, the players, to have so much power, that is not a good thing, because they're going to think that's how it's always going to be. And then when the limelight is not on them anymore, they're going to revert back to what I said to you about what I said before, is that if you're not have any aspirations or any goals or anything like that, men without something like that, there's a reason why we have religion, because men on their own are going to do things that probably aren't going to be considered legal. We will do what we have to do. So it's 2023, and now I've got, since 1965, the amount of people who are committing suicide is spiking, mostly men. But I should be okay because I'm living in the past. Oh, Gene, no, we're only talking about sports. How about the guys that were playing sports, and then sports left them behind, and they have nothing else? Watch a movie about Breaking Away. These guys that were in high school had nothing left. The one guy was the star quarterback, and then they didn't go on with their careers. They didn't go to universities. They stayed at home, and they're just walking around the street. These are white people, and they have no aspirations for anything. And then this race comes up, and they go together, and they end up winning. Now you hope after that shows them they have the necessary tools to take life from the horns and go on with life. The greatness of team sports is having the discipline, having the camaraderie of the brothers you're with, the hierarchy that says you have to answer to this person, and if you do bad, you're going to still have the ability to come back. And all we have right now is if somebody is told you didn't do well here, the whole society is saying move to somewhere else. The agents that are with him or there, or his friends, or his parents are saying go somewhere else. You can't hear this stuff. And you know what? He's a white guy anyway. He doesn't understand what it's like to be in our culture. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it happens. And that is the destruction of college football, because it was an avenue for these players, regardless of the color. Because, like I said, I came from the wrong side of the streets as well, I didn't have any fucking privilege, man. I, no. I got the same amount of trouble that everybody else got in trouble. If we got talked over by the cops at night at 3 o'clock, they didn't let me to go home. None of that shit could happen. None of that shit really fucking happened. Okay, individual cases happen, of course. In the 70s when I grew up in the 80s, yes, there were bad cops that were racist. Okay, but it's not like that anymore. Right now, a lot of white guys don't even become cops. And then we have these situations that a black cop does something to a black person, and then you'll still, or somebody will still say the same thing. Well, they're infected by white supremacy, or they were just caping for the white officer in the room. This is just absolute insanity. I said this country in the 60s, even though the other shit that we had, just right before the civil rights and all that shit happened, and the protests and all that stuff, it was a better time. There were fathers in the house. The black man, the family did pretty well. They still have obstacles. They're still looked at as the other. There was only less, 9 to 10% of the population was black. It was still 90% white. I mean, Hispanics is a new phenomenon. We have people who come in for agricultural, but they would go back. But after 65, now they're like 20% of the population, and we have any idea about the illegal side of it. So it could be in the neighborhood of 30 or 40% of the population have to be Hispanic. Their culture is different. It's similar to European culture, but it's still different. And when they go someplace, they bring that culture to there. It's just, again, the title was about Deon Sanders and is he killing college football. Was it provocative? Sure, why not? But everybody was on his Johnson for the last 3 days. You know, and this guy waited 3 days to come out to talk about the hit too, which I thought was bad. And then all these guys on TV was basically saying this kid should lose a scholarship. And I'm like, especially like Michael Irvin, who played with one of the worst, dirtiest teams ever in Miami University in the 90s and the 80s. I mean, they hit a hell of a lot worse than Henry Backward did. And then I hear people say, well, nothing happened to him because he's white. I said, the only reason this thing became anything was because he was white. So again, I'm on one side of it, you're on the other side, fine. All right, we can have the same, different opinions about the same event. If you really think that guy should never play football again, I don't know what to say to you. But at the same time, don't tell me it's 2023. Don't tell me that just by time it's going to be better. Or tell me that this new thing about college football is a good thing. I've been wrong about several things when it comes to sports. I didn't want the wild card in baseball. It turned out to be pretty good for baseball because baseball was dying. I didn't really want a replay in the NFL. I still have some issues with it because it's not 100% right. In Europe, when I watch soccer overseas, the VAR is the same thing. I didn't want that. I still don't want it. But maybe over time, I'll say it's the right thing. But this is a different thing. When you change the hierarchy of a sports entity, or especially with young men that are not professionals yet, and you allow them to be at the same level as the coaches, and I hear people saying that for so long that they've been bilking off the athletes, and I'm like, really? Okay, let's say you get 100 scholarship athletes, and they get paid for everything, and they're looked at like icons on the campus. Everybody does what you want, whatever you want to do. For a time there, they never really went to class. Just do yourself a favor and watch Last Chance U. This is JUCO, and these guys rarely go to class. So but they get to sit out. They get to sit in this little commuter lab, and people just tutor to them to make sure that they can be qualified for the next game. And to me, like, unless there's some sort of educational liability here, deficiencies. Now again, remember, we've changed everything. Anybody is autistic now. Everybody's got attention deficit shit now. They would say that, Claire would have said about me, because people would say I'm autistic. But I have problems dealing. I was daydreaming all the fucking time. Okay? But if somebody would have given me structure, that's why I went in the military, or if I had more male role models in high school, I'd have been fine. Somebody needs to come in and just, especially for men or young boys, they have to be more forceful with us. And we respect that. You cannot sit there and say that everything that Prime is doing is good for college football. Everybody's like, it's great for it's good for Boulder because they're getting a lot of attention. Okay, what's happening in Jackson right now? And whether you believe this or not, my family lived just outside of Jackson and Pearl. I'm well aware of what Jackson is. You know, I live in Huntsville. It's another area that's higher than the per capita when it comes to black people. In my neighborhood, I have about 110 houses. Half of them are black. These are guys that worked all their entire lives, most of them military. These are all middle income people. They would laugh at this idea that 2023, it makes it better. It would, it's just, and again, none of these people that responded to this actually read the video or listened to the video. And I said before, I was just talking forever there. And I wasn't really making any points, really. This was an overarching type of thing. I didn't even talk about Deon until later on. And I said certain things that they absolutely would have said something back to me. I said stuff that people would get very, very upset about. And I'm going to say it here as well. You know, people want to sit there and say, oh, America was never great. Okay. Maybe in your mind it wasn't. There was a time that while there were still issues, we respected we respected each other based on whether you did anything. If you were sitting on the side of the road, regardless of what side you or what color you were, we didn't respect that. There's a guy on TikTok actually put something out the other day, and it was a black dude, and he was going through in his town, and he's looking at these young Hispanic guys have their own little. Why can't an athlete be an idol? This is interesting. Somebody's actually responding to that to this video, and somebody says, "Why can't an athlete be an idol?" I guess he doesn't understand how the Bible talks about that. You're now supposed to be looking at other things. That's wow. Wow. So anyway, he's in his own town, and these young Hispanic guys are over there, and they have their own little tire place. And he goes there every time he needs to change his tire. And there's something you'll see. My son goes through this as well. Even though we have money, when he wants to replace his tire, he gets a retread or something like that. He pays half the price for it. And I'm like, go ahead and get a new one. I'll pay. I'll give you half of it, whatever. He won't do it. So these guys have this and they have that type of thing. And then he pans his camera around to where the black guys are. They're just a little bit near the convenience store, and they're just sitting there and they're not doing anything. And if you don't have fathers in the homes, that's going to be allowed. How is a mother going to stop a 17 or 18-year-old boy from doing shit like that? They're not going to be able to do it. And yes, I understand a lot of black fathers that are in prison, and a lot of them is just for drug offenses. But it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. You know, this has been going on for 50, 60 years now, so it's like it's endemic in the black community. And nobody will ever call it out. And then when black people actually start calling it out, they're called Uncle Toms. And what am I supposed to do as a white guy? So if I make a comparison of why I think this is bad for college football, and it's really endemic of what's happening in the black community, because as we know in Power 5 conferences or in Division I, it's 75 to 80% of scholarship athletes are black on football. These are all directly connected. So if you have a guy that's been looked up as some sort of idol in high school, and then the society has changed so much, you can never offend anybody, and if I'm a black person, you can pretty much do anything, and you won't be called racist or anything like that. And if a white guy hits a guy late, then he needs to lose his scholarship. And I'm just to sit there and say it's fine. It's not fine. You know, I have my opinion. I'm not saying Deon Sanders is doing anything. I said he is right now, the system is geared for him and his attitude and his swag and all that stuff to do this. I'm thinking just for the near term might be great entertainment for us, but it's bad for college football. That's basically it. So I'll go ahead and see how this goes. It's already been 30 minutes. This will be probably episode 2. I'll see how that goes, and then I'll answer this person here, and I'll do it right here. I'm make sure he's actually talking about. Let me see where it's at. Yeah, it is. Why can't an athlete be an idol? That's a weird take. So how do I respond to this? Should I say read the Bible? Idol worshiping. I said, read the Bible. That's the issue that we're in right now. Everybody thinks that that's a good thing. Oh, I want to idolize an 18-year-old kid. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Because they can throw a football. When I was that age, I could do as much as Sanders did. I can't run like him, but I could definitely throw it as far. I could definitely play at the same level as playing basketball than Deon did. I played against him. You're gonna worship me? I mean, his attitude and his whole persona that started later on as second year, I guess it's Florida State, was all part of a response to what's going on in the culture anyway. Is when MTV was getting big and rap was getting big, and he just backed off of that. He used this whole persona, and he was a bad man for 30 years, 20 years. Just like Michael Irvin and Emmett, all these guys were degenerate. They cheated on their wives. They took drugs. They did all the shit like that. And I want to idolize them. Do I want a redemption arc for these guys? Yes. And I hope that Deon is a good man. But I look at his sons, I don't see it. I see his sons driving a fucking Bentley. And his sons go out there and just do shit at the beginning of the game like they're in the pros. And they're saying shit, and they're saying white this and white that. And they wonder why they get a target on their back. And okay, that's how it used to be the old days. It wasn't based on race. In the 80s and 90s, you didn't say he's a black person or a white person. We hated Nebraska because I was at OU. Or we hated Texas because I was at OU. Or if we hated Alabama because I was Auburn. Or Florida State and Florida. We hated you because where you came from. Almost all the players came from the local close to the universities. It was rare when a guy from Gainesville went to Florida State to play, or Miami and would go to Florida State, or they got some guy from Tallahassee to go down to Miami. This was all rare. It's just not now. All I'm saying is now that Deon has got everybody on his side. He's got the media, the establishment, the LBGTQ and all that bullshit. Alphabet. He's got the rap guys. He's got washed up actors and wash up rap guys and wash up athletes on the sidelines. And I think that, and I can't say that I think that there's something wrong. That's my opinion, okay? You can take it whatever it is. You can say I'm racist for saying it. I don't give a fuck. I don't. I know where we were 30 years in this country, a year, 30 years ago in this country, that we pretty much solved this bullshit. My generation solve this shit. We said we don't look at other people based on the color of our skin. Now it's all back, and you guys are just falling into it again. And it's everything based on, well, if it's nothing, he would have, if that white guy, if it was a black guy did the same thing, he would be gone. He would have lost his scholarship. And then I'll say something, it makes no sense. I think the only reason why anybody's saying anything about it, other than the fact it was Deon's game and all this stuff, is that a white guy made the hit. And then all these black former players get on there saying, I can't believe he did this. And these guys played in the 90s. It's just, all of them. And then you got guys like Skip Bayless that just he cows down. Nobody will call it out. Fortunately, I don't have the right articulated ways anyway because the fact my brain is broke. I would love to be on these shows and say this is all bullshit. I don't have any. I have nothing. It's not like I played the game or anything like that. But I can look and see at the society, and I knew where I was, and I didn't live in some white suburban area. I was in almost all black areas until I went to the military. And then I went to the military and I met a lot of other black people. And all of them, to the man, to a woman, would say, if I asked them the same question now, and you hear this, what's going on in these liberal states, that these kids don't even have to pass a test because the color of their skin, they would say, what? How did we get here? How are we allowed men to go into women's bathrooms? It's just the common sense is lost, and it's all fucking related. Whether you believe it or not, guys, it's all related. When you allow standards to shift to nothing, that we allow this theater to go on without real any discipline, and we just let young 18-year-old men to decide, or boys to decide everything without any checks and balances, you're going to get this, and I'm going to be right in the long run. College basketball went down the tube because of this stuff like this. It'll happen in college football. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you about it later. Bye.